Hi,
Hey,
Tori.
Hamilton.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Did I catch you at a bad time?
No, it's just always chaotic here.
Okay,
Always chaos.
that's exciting though. You know, do the kids want to be on the interview too?
No, 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 they don't.
Okay, that's good. That's funny. Are you going to be able to talk about things?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Because some of the subject matter of your books, it's risque, and I want to talk about that.
No, my daughter is in bed, so we're good.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. And you have another one on the way, right?
I do. I do.
Wow. And you're pretty close from I remember what we talked about. Are you?
I'm hella pregnant. I'm 8 months.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. I think you'll probably have the baby by the time this comes out,
Perfect.
live. So it'll be perfect, you know? Wow. Well, that's exciting. That is exciting. Um, yeah, I've got a bunch of good questions for you. We're gonna have a good talk and we're just gonna like hang out and just kind of like get to know each other and have fun. So thank you for coming by.
Yeah,
I
of
really
course.
appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. Well, unless you have any questions, we'll just get right into it.
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, this is Mark Justice, and you're back with Between the Lines. Tonight, we've got a very steamy episode. We want to welcome Steamy paranormal writer, paranormal, I think that's I may have to do that over again. Paranormal romance, excuse me. Yeah, I have it written right here. Trying to not to look at my cards, so that's okay. The
Oh,
glory of editing,
yeah.
you know. I can cut out all the flubs and make it look like I know what I'm doing. Hey, this is Mark Justice, and you are back with Between the Lines. Tonight, we have a very steamy episode with steamy paranormal romance writer Torri Heat. Torri, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to this. Now, I've never read any steamy paranormal romance, and so I'm looking forward to like talking all about the genre because it's one that I mean, I could put the parts together and kind of figure out what's going on, but I didn't know there was such a genre before,
Yeah.
being on Instagram and seeing other writers, like yourself, who write in these genres. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And Instagram is definitely a cool place to see genres you didn't know about and other authors you didn't know about. And
Precisely. I grew up, well, I guess we'll just talk about that. Who are some of your, growing up, who are your some of your favorite writers and some of your favorite books?
not paranormal, not even romance.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that.
um, I grew up like reading like Stephen King and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that's a lot of that's kind of where the paranormal side of it comes in because when I started writing romance, it didn't make sense for me to write fluffy romance.
Right.
I'm not fluffy.
No Hallmark Channel here, right?
So yeah, paranormal is just kind of it made sense to be a stepping stone from the darker stuff that I read. So
Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, nothing wrong with dark. I mean, someone's got to write it, right?
yeah,
I mean, we wouldn't have light without the dark, or at least we wouldn't appreciate it.
exactly.
You know, you have to have that. So, what first drew you into writing? Like, I find that there's an interesting correlation between people who loved to read growing up and then who became writers, because you can't be a good writer, I think, unless you are or at one time have been a voracious reader, and you have to love the medium.
Yeah, you have to kind of know how it works, the ins and outs of it as a reader to see what people would enjoy. I was definitely a big reader growing up, but I didn't start writing until later. I actually went to school for visual arts and I painted. So I painted for a really long time. And when my daughter came home, I couldn't paint because she only slept in my arms. So I needed some other kind of creative outlet. And so I started writing books on my phone. On Google Docs, I started writing werewolf
Really?
books.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where did the love of the like these monsters, like werewolf books, like that seems, was it like an arbitrary decision, or how did you, have you always been a fan of like these horror, these creatures from
Yeah.
horror?
Yeah. I've always been a fan of kind of like anything different or
Okay.
anything like that. Um, those kind of movies. And
So you
even when
watched a
I
lot of horror as a kid then? Is that those kind of
not so
monster
much
movies?
horror, not so much horror, but like thrillers and
Okay.
and I grew up in the Twilight era. So Twilight, you can't get away from that. But you just got to make it a bit steamier than, Jacob and Edward. So
Okay. I'm sure there's probably a whole bunch of fan fiction, about the Twilight series. I've never read the Twilight series. I've had students, I used to teach English and I've had students read it. Um, so I wasn't, I'd heard a lot about it, and I think that was like, okay, that's not my thing, but that's okay.
yeah.
You like what you like, you know,
Yep.
and I was having them read H.P. Lovecraft. And I don't know if have you ever read any Lovecraft at all? Okay. And one of the students came up to me afterwards and said, Professor Justice, I'll never be able to read Twilight again. Yeah, for reading Lovecraft. And I thought, do I say you're welcome, or
A whole different world.
yeah, exactly. Like, and they, because the writing is just so different. It's so stylized. And
Yeah.
um, the same thing. Like you had mentioned Stephen King, and I was going to ask you, and I didn't. Do you have a favorite Stephen King book, or you just like, what about Stephen King? What made you a fan?
Honestly, it's the way that he can tell a story without actually, like, sometimes he doesn't even detail his characters. Like he doesn't tell you what a character looks like the entire book. And you're like, and yet, like, these books are like this thick.
Right, or he gives a minimal description,
Minimal
like in Pet
description.
Cemetery, we knew that Gage was about the age and like blonde hair or something, blue eyes, or that's about it.
And that was it.
Yeah, and you fill
And
it in the blanks. Yeah,
yes, I love that. I love that. And it's something that people, I think, enjoy my writing for now because I tend to do that. But it's also something I get a lot of flack about because people pick up my books thinking I'm a fantasy writer.
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not a fantasy writer. I'm
what?
not world building.
Oh, see that. Okay, good. That was something I was going to talk about down the road, is world building, but you're not world building. So
I do not world build. I'm like, here
that's
they are. They're in a forest. Have at
it's like the porn equivalent of literature. Is that you just push play and like wow chicka wow? I mean, they're right.
it.
Like
Like there's
werewolf
plot.
meet
There's
humans, werewolves, and they're just going to town in the forest. The forest is the world, and they're just having sex. What more do you want? Is
there's
that
tons of plot. Like I'm
okay?
very firm on having a plot smut balance here.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
and
or there's that. So that's exciting. Okay, I this is great because I have like so many questions about this. Okay, so if you're not world building, because
I don't world build.
as most writers tend to create a world in which their characters, live, because you have to have a place, but you just have this forest, right?
Yeah,
And the
they're just
characters,
hanging out. For
yeah.
some reason, they're usually in Chicago.
Oh,
It
okay.
makes no sense to me because I've never been to Chicago.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, I'm going to tell you, there's not a lot of forests in Chicago.
They're usually
You know,
outside of Chicago.
okay, yeah, you might want to rethink their
But like,
location. You know,
why?
I mean, New York at least has Central Park. You could probably, you know, have them like go on vacation, like, look at this forest in the middle of the city. Let's have sex,
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't know. I focus a lot more on the action and the emotions
Okay.
and
Sure.
that kind of stuff that drives them.
Yeah.
And I'm very My writing's very quick. I don't
Okay.
like people to get bored because I get bored sometimes when I read
Okay.
world building. So when I'm writing,
Oh, okay. I see. So no, you don't want. We're not bringing. We're not doing Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings here. We don't give a. We don't give a.
I don't want to weigh it down. I
Yeah, we
want
don't give a shit about these elves and dwarves.
no,
Let's just focus on the werewolves and the humans or other monsters and paranormal creatures having a free for all.
not a free for all. Like there is
Well, no,
stuff.
I know there's a plot. Yeah, well, I love.
I
I
promise there's a plot.
well, let's talk about plot then. I mean, well, because I have so many questions that I'm just gonna get rid of the world building question right now because
There's
there's no
no world
need.
building.
But no, that's fine because I was going to talk about plot and how you develop plot. So you're focusing on characters and relationships and the plot. So how do you? What is your creative process? I guess when you're creating this plot for a storyline or a book, how do you develop the plot that these characters are going to be working and living through if without the grounding of having a place?
Usually they tell me what they want to do.
Okay. Okay.
I mean that in the least crazy way possible.
I was just say, like,
Um,
have you blink twice if you're okay?
um,
No, it's good.
I'm
I
a
get
really
it.
bad plotter. It probably goes hand in hand with the world building. I'm a really bad plotter.
Bad plotter. Okay, so
Yeah.
so we're talking about bad plotting, meaning you're a pantser versus a.
Yes.
Okay, see,
I'm
that's
I
that's that's on my questions. Are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm a pantser. I can't
Yeah.
change it.
Okay. Now, as someone who is a rabid plotter, I have a hard time understanding the ability to just say, yeah, I got this idea, and here we go. I mean, I get all ideas and I write them down, but maybe this is my years in academia as a student and as an instructor, teaching English and how to do research papers and organize and develop ideas. I'm all for the creative endeavor and um, brainstorming and those kinds of things. But then I have to then say, okay, here are the good ideas. Let's try to develop them and articulate them in a way that how then do I arrange them into a plot that makes me happy? And is there some kind of
Mhm.
arc or some kind of longer, piece here? It's usually like all the details then start sliding in like, oh, this would be really good here. So please help me understand the process as a pantser, how you go into from like no idea to finished product. So I like to let's hear it all.
So it usually starts with a weird random idea that comes to me while I'm sleeping.
Okay.
And then I usually message one of my writer friends and I detail the entire dream to them. And I'm like, can I
Okay.
make this into a book? And she's like, yes. She's
You
never
get a
once
lot
said
of supportive
no.
friends then. You have supportive friends who say, yeah, yeah, you had a dream about a balloon that followed you around and then yes, you
I
write
feel
that
like
out.
at least once she should probably say no,
Okay.
but fine. It's totally fine. We're working with it. It's usually a pretty vague idea. And then from there, I kind of just sit and think about my characters and I think about what they're like. And they usually just kind of appear. They
Okay.
kind of they name themselves, they tell me what they're like. It usually makes sense within the plot.
Sure.
And then I just start writing.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay. No,
so
that's fantastic. That you have this really close, intimate connection with your characters, and that they're so, at the ready, and are so involved in this interaction with them. That's fascinating to me. And have you always kind of once you started like writing, has it always been like that for you, or did you try writing in other ways and that it just didn't seem to fit for you?
I just so Nosedive is the one that's my most recent. And I sat down with Nosedive and I'm like, I'm gonna plot this one. I'm gonna plot it out. And I plotted it out. And then I threw out the plot. And then I made another plot. And then I threw out that plot. And I probably made 6 or 7 plots. And I had to throw every single one of them out because they just would not follow the plot. They were just
That's fantastic. The character's
they
like,
just
I'm
wanted
not
to
doing that. I don't care what you
No,
tell me.
no. It was originally going to be a slow burn book, like filled with tension.
Mhm.
And then in chapter 4, they ended up going to the pub and getting drunk, and which was not in my chapter 4 originally. And so then chapter 5, they had to bone because
They
they
had
got
to.
drunk at the pub.
Of course. Why else would you go get drunk at a pub unless you're gonna bone
So
afterwards? I mean,
I had
obviously.
no choice.
Right. Those characters are forcing you to tell their story. Well, that's fantastic. What was the original chapter 4 plot, if I can ask, of the 6 that you threw away?
Of the 6, I think the original chapter 4 plot was she was going to like just chill in her room for the night, and then she was going to run off in the middle of the night and like sneak away and run away from him.
Okay.
And but he convinced her to go to the pub with him, so they went to the
Oh,
pub.
I
Yeah,
see. Okay.
yeah,
So, see, this is, I mean, we're laughing about it, but I find it fascinating. This is one of the reasons why I started this show, is that I know mostly my own process, and I have other writing friends who we don't talk writing all the time. It's not like the Algonquin roundtable, for crying out loud. But I know them enough to where we've talked about writing sometimes, and I know their process. So meeting so many of the writers like yourself on Instagram, I just, in all these different genres that I had never been aware of, I just like, I have to get to know these writers. I have to know how they do what they do, why they do what they do. And that's why I did this show. So this is all very exciting, and for me, like, oh, okay. Cause it's like totally antithesis of everything that I would do as a writer, I mean, other than sometimes the characters do just kind of pop up, like, who this character is going to be alike. I mean,
yeah,
I've done that in several of my books. I've got a cozy mystery series, and some of those characters just like pop up. You know who they're going to be, and that's really gratifying when they kind of come fully formed. And then my splatter western, the main character, I kind of know. Yes, I know this guy. I know how he talks, and he's just full of rage, and he's a guy who's been wrongly accused of a crime, and wants to go get his revenge on the people who sent him to jail. It's just, yeah. So those things I get, and I understand how even when you plot out something, how things can change, because that's,
yeah,
I think, the magical process of writing, isn't it? Like, it's it's a place where invention and intention and creativity and discovery and imagination like all come together, and sometimes it just takes off in different directions that you really never expected.
yeah, yeah. It's always cool to see where it ends up from like the original. And I have like all these, because even when I write notes to myself in my notebooks, it's just like 1 or 2 words. So it'll literally be like chapter 8, fight.
Obviously.
Like,
Well, that's fantastic.
yes, they're having a fight in chapter 8.
Right.
But sometimes
Okay.
I forget, and then I don't know what chapter 8 fight means.
Yeah.
And so I just make something else up, and it's fine. It always works out. It works out.
Wow. Okay. Do you at least have a rough arc of the plot, like beginning, middle, and end? Like, this is how it's going to begin. Here's how it ends, and here's some of the things that happen to them in between. Or do you just start with like, that's an idea, and I'm just going to go and see how I can accomplish it done?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no.
Okay.
Um, I'm writing the last book in my werewolf novella series right now. It's coming out in May. And that one, I knew exactly where it was going.
Hmm.
Um, so even though it's not really plotted, I knew where it was starting. I knew what the tension, the climax was going to be, and I knew how it was going to end because it's the last book. So you're kind of
Sure.
wrapping things up.
Yeah.
Um, with the other book I'm writing right now, I knew how it was going to start. I know what's going to be the climax of it. I don't really know how it's going to end right now.
Okay.
um,
That's fair enough. I mean,
Once I see how the climax plays out, that's kind of where I think where the endings usually come to me. And
right,
then I'm
right.
like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This is how it'll
Sure.
go.
Right. Because you could see the story. If you have this series, you can kind of see like the major things, like the
Yeah.
themes developing. And right, I have the same thing. I've got 3 series going on. And I have rough two of them are trilogies, at least. So I kind of have an idea. I have like the three stories in the one series named, and I kind of have basic plots of them. I kind
Yeah.
of know what's going to happen, but that's different than like the everyday laying down the sentence after sentence after sentence when you're building that reality. Things can change. And then the other one I think could be an ongoing series. So I have no idea really how many it's going to be. But my cozy mystery series, it's 4 books. That was how it was planned from the beginning, each one following a different season. And
Mhm.
so I know how that's I have an idea how it's going to end. I'm
Yeah.
still working the second book. I have the vaguest notion of plots for the summer and the fall book. It's like, I'm too
It'll
busy
come.
writing. Yeah, it's like I'm trying to write this one. It's like I got too much to worry about right now. Um, no, it's fascinating. See, in a way, I don't know if you know this, that Stephen King is a pantser as well,
Oh,
and I think probably, I mean, he might have, because he's been writing for for decades, so
sure.
he obviously knows what he's doing. But I think when we're young and when we don't know any better, we write without really plotting. We just write and go. We're pantsers, I think, naturally. And then as we start writing more complex things, perhaps some of us, like me, I was an academic, so I learned to organize and plot. But he was saying that he was watching a TV show or a news report or something about a police officer, and someone had been murdered and there was some kind of investigation, and he thought, oh, I think that's something I'd like to write about. And he intended it to be about 12 15,000 word 50-page short story. And he said, about 500 pages into it, I thought, oh, maybe this should be a novel instead. you know uh, but I thought, well, you got 40 years of experience, 45, cranking out these books. I'm sure you can do that now because you've done it so much. But
Yeah.
the thought of just taking on such a daunting project as a novel with dozens of characters and plots and subplots and all these things, just starting like as a complete pantser, um, I think mine would just be a complete mess. It would just be like a bowl of spaghetti you're just pouring out on a table and like letting a bunch of cats play with it. It's like
I'm
everywhere.
pretty good at keeping it like in like the big picture, everything is usually cohesive. And I think that's because I keep things pretty simple naturally. Like again, like the world building. Okay,
Yeah.
there is a bit of world building. Like it's not they're not just
They
in
live in a forest. That's the world. So shut up,
they're not
reader.
just like in like a black hole. Although I did write entire scene in my ruins books where they were in just a dark tunnel the entire time because they were in the void. It was a
Well,
very
they
important
have to
scene.
be. Why not? Um, See, now that also is a curious thing. This lack of world building. And was this intentional? You said you just don't like doing it, or what? You
I'm
don't
not
like
the
stories that
biggest,
spend too much time building the world.
yeah. I'm not when I'm writing, I write thinking about how other people are going to read it. So when I'm writing it and I'm like, oh, if I bog this down too much, I would get bored. So if I'm going
Okay,
to get bored, you
sure.
know, the general person would get bored. And I know that paranormal romance is a new genre for a lot of people. So I
Yeah,
don't want to, I want my books to be able to reach more than just people who like werewolf romance, you know?
sure.
I
Right.
want it to reach people who read contemporary romance or, people who don't necessarily read romance, but they like werewolf stuff. I kind of want it to reach all of those people.
Okay.
So it's the same thing when I'm writing the plot, which is why I never really know how the ending's going to go because I'll be like, oh, I would be bored at this point. Throw a twist in there.
Sure.
Or, fight scene or something. And I keep the action going when I would get bored.
That makes sense. Because you are bringing your expectations as a reader into your own writing. I love that. Um, because you're really thinking about the experience that the reader is going to have, and in a way that kind of flies in the face of a lot of writer expectations, where at the end of the day the writer, you have to be happy with what you've written.
Mhm.
And if you are, it doesn't matter if anyone else likes it. Like, you want people to like it. Obviously, you want them to like it and read your books and buy more books and those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, you have to be satisfied first and foremost. And so that's like my one takeaway from Stephen King, like, write for yourself. Um, and so I tried my best to do that. And I just hope that people like it, but you can't control that. But you are the first writer I've talked to who is so cognizant of how you would respond to your own story. And I think that's really wonderful.
I want to entertain people. I don't necessarily, I'm not writing because I like the sound of my own voice, because I don't. I'm writing to entertain people and I want people to take away something from my books.
Hmm.
So that's kind of always playing in the back of my head as I'm writing.
What do you want them to take away?
I want them to take away, I want, the best ways I can describe it is I want my books to stick. I want some kind of feeling in my book to resonate and stick to people's chests and to make them think. And,
Mm.
for them to be like, oh, that scene made me think about this. And that's, not necessarily, I don't need to change people's lives here, but I
Sure.
want them to be like, oh, that one scene that stuck with me.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I don't know. This is an ongoing story here. Have you read Justin Cronin's The Passage?
No.
Okay, so there's one scene in The Passage. You have to read it. It's such a great book. One of
Okay.
my favorites. And my husband was listening to the audiobook of it. And I was like, you're going to get to this one scene. And this scene has stuck with me for years. And when you read the scene, you're going to know what this scene is. You're going to know what scene it is. And like, I haven't read this book for years. But the scene still sticks with me how I felt reading it. And he came home and he's like, you didn't tell me it was going to be like that. And that's what I want. I want scenes that, you
Okay.
know, they don't go away.
Okay. I like that. That's a pretty good ambition for any writer, really, to want something. I mean, you want your books to resonate with people,
Mhm.
but to have them kind of carry it, carry that. That's pretty awesome. Um, yeah, when you get reader response from your books, do you often find some of it like surprising with the kinds of things that people say about your writing?
I'm always surprised when people give me positive feedback.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
honestly, um, I read my reviews fairly regularly. After Blood Crown, I kind of stopped just because there was a lot of like Blood Crown's a very polarizing book. So if you're not reading it for what it is, you're not going to like it.
Sure.
Blood Crown is smut.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't go into this with false expectations, right?
Yes, it's
Yes.
smut, Don't
Yeah.
go into it looking for too much plot. If you want plot, I got, like 10 other books.
I've
This
plotted
is,
out lots of smut. Enjoy the
yes,
smut.
yes, this one is
Right.
just smut.
Yeah, we're not
Um,
masquerading as something that we're not. I see. I love that. I love you're making no apologies about it. Like,
no,
look, this is my smut book, and you should be unapologetic about it. Like, yeah, I want to read some smut.
yeah,
So
no,
what?
that's my smut book. It's good smut, but
Yeah.
don't go into it thinking, it's a fantasy book because
Hmm.
you're
Even though
there.
there are fantastic situations,
Yes,
it is a smut book with
yes,
fantastic creatures. That's the
yes,
paranormal romance,
exactly.
or paranormal smut or whatever. I'm not sure the genre paranormal romance is. You said it's pretty new. It was new for me, and that's what intrigued me. It's like one reason why I wanted to talk with you about this, because I've seen other writers kind of do the paranormal kind of in reality, kind of magic in the
Mhm.
modern world, or reality, blending genres. But the paranormal romance, I've seen a few other writers do. But one thing I really like about your presence on Instagram are your reels. They're like really funny, and they're kind of flirty. And I thought, okay, because you're playing up on that the idea that you're writing smut,
Yeah.
and the one that kind of made me laugh, I think, was about like when your family finds out what you write. I'm like, yeah, I get it. And like, so what have been the reactions from your family, closest friends who know? I guess everyone knows now.
Yeah, everyone knows.
What you write? Like, what kind of responses have you gotten?
Honestly, everyone's been very supportive. I don't think anyone was surprised, to be honest with you. The the running
You've always had spot on the brain, Torri, right?
the running joke with my family is that my grandmother always says I'm different. So she's just like, you've always been different, you know.
Hey, different's good, right?
You're writing smut about werewolves. Fine.
Are they always werewolves?
No, no. So my
Okay.
first series was werewolves. Um, and then my second series was a dream demon. So
Oh, like a
they call it,
succubus or incubus.
yeah, he's called
Male or female?
Nightmare
Male or
and
female?
male.
Okay, so a succubus. Okay, or an
He was
incubus. Excuse me.
he was called a nightmare.
Nightmare. Ah, I like it.
Nightmare, yeah, because he brought bad
Okay,
dreams. And um, then Nosedive was a witch and a dragon shifter.
a dragon shifter.
A dragon shifter, yeah. So like a
Wow.
werewolf, but a dragon.
Okay, like a were dragon.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so and forgive me for my ignorance because I've not read your books. I just found to be fascinating, this idea of this paranormal romance and smut. Smut's always good.
What's
Um,
up?
Now, the first book with the werewolves, are they like werewolves with werewolves, werewolves with humans? The transformation. I mean, what about it? The werewolf kink is exciting, or the werewolf fetish. What was it attracted you to say, yeah, I think I want werewolves having sex with other werewolves or people, or how does that work?
I think it's just I think it's the animalistic nature,
Hmm.
like the loss of control and that side of things.
Hmm. Totally.
And
Yeah. The
it
animal in us.
also it also helps make the romance more believable because it's a little bit more out there. It
Okay.
makes, the quick like falling in love kind of romance thing more
uh
believable.
because they are intense creatures. They don't have time. It's just like Jesse the Body Ventura's character in Predator. I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah.
I ain't got time to mess around. I'm here for the smut, and I gotta change into a wolf. um no, that's good. There's a concept in horror. When I taught a section in an intro to horror class, there's a concept that you may or may not have heard. I'm not sure if you've done a lot of research into lycanthropy or horror movies or anything, but the term romantic isolation is when we identify with the monstrous in the human and the human in the monster. So King Kong is a good example of the latter. King Kong and the Wolfman, or Frankenstein rather. We see
Mhm.
the human side of King Kong. He's just an ape too big for his environments, and we see the innocence of Frankenstein's monster because he just wants to know why he's here and why people are tormenting him. But we also see that monstrous in the human when we watch movies like The Wolfman. Larry Talbot. We kind of feel sympathy and empathy for him. We also kind of like wish that was us. Like, yeah, I wouldn't mind turning into a werewolf. So I totally get it. That transformation, and it's being in touch with that yin and yang, that animal side in all of
Mhm.
us. Um, that's pretty cool. So did you do research into like anything like these creatures before you started writing to kind of add some of that information in the books?
I don't add, so I do research into lore, just to kind of get a rough idea, but there's so many different ways that you can take it that it's kind of fair game as long as you're sticking within somewhat of the world. You're not like, oh, werewolves have mermaid tails. Like as long as you're not going that far out, like
Right.
usually it's okay.
Sure.
Um, some people do have preferences, like some people prefer their werewolves to only shift in the full moon, that kind of stuff. Some people prefer that werewolves can only be werewolves if they're bitten. Um,
Oh,
it, yeah, you're never going to please everyone though.
right.
So
Exactly.
you just, you do
Right.
what makes sense to your story. And
Yeah, I mean, so those breakthrough movies are about the changing nature of these monsters we've known about. They're mostly Eastern European folklore. Vampires and werewolves are come from those countries, areas of the world, and the folklore comes up about it. You're bitten by the werewolf, and if you don't die, then you become a werewolf. Or or when the wolf moon blooms and the moon is full and bright. It's like tomorrow night. The moon is full tomorrow night, so there are
I
all the
know.
werewolves out there. Now's your time. Um, no, that's fascinating. Because do you play with those tropes at all? Like Twilight did with the glittery vampires, sparkling vampires, and they didn't want to drink human blood and those kinds of things. So do you play with those tropes at all, and make these kind of, I will say, sympathetic werewolves in that regard?
They're definitely sympathetic. Like, you kind of, it's easy to pick up points of yourself in them.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I always wanted to do it. Especially you get more of it. So Darkling is the werewolf series, and it's written just from the female main character's point of view. So it's written just from Ava's point of view. And my second series, the Watcher series, that's the Dream Demon. It's written in a dual point of view. So it's written from Luke, who's the dream demon, and then Joelle, who's the human having the bad dreams. And I did it like that so you can see the reflection between the two of them. So you can kind of like, because they're saying the same things,
Okay,
but they mean different things.
sure.
So sometimes they'll even say like the exact same sentence
Mm,
and it has a completely different connotation. But
of
then
course, as
you
it
can
should with
also,
the demon,
yeah. And
right?
then as the story moves along, sometimes they're saying different things, but you're seeing the similarities between them. And it's very cool to kind of see that played off each other, because I think it does humanize the demon and, demonize the human. Is
Sure,
that right?
that's the romantic isolation, right there. I think a demon must have been really fun to write. I
It
mean, because
was.
you can get into this mindset where I mean, are they a legalistic demon? Are they all about the the exact nature and wording of what you're going to say, like semantics, or are they clever? Are they putting on a fake front to lure humans in? But if there's a nightmare demon, the motivation's got to be to torment people to some degree, I'm going to guess. So that had to be a lot of fun.
It was. I wrote it kind of at a weird point in my life. So like it made sense.
Hmm.
I called it word vomit. And then I was like, here, because I published my novellas through a small publisher. So they're traditionally published through this publisher. And so I was writing my Darkling books, and then I wrote The Ruins, which is the first Watcher book. And I was kind of just like, here, take it. Do you want it? And they're like, yeah, this is great. We'll publish this. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's
Wow,
do it. On to the next.
that's great.
So
How did you get to this publisher and get a publishing deal with them?
so I wrote my book, the Darkling book. Um, and then I think it was like a year after that we went into lockdown. And so I started reading like romance books again while we were in lockdown, because like what else are you gonna do with your time?
Right.
And like, you're too upset to read anything else besides romance.
I
And
see.
so I'm reading some of these romance books and I'm like, these romance books can get a publisher. I can get a publisher, as I sit on my couch in my pajamas for the fifth day in a row.
Yeah.
And
I love the bravado. I love that confidence. That's fantastic. I
it's
mean,
fake it
sure,
till you make it.
it's like every writer's dream to get a publisher. Like, yeah, I can do that. You stupid writers aren't getting publishers. Jeez. Right?
Yeah,
Of
Cheeto
course.
dust all over my sweater. It's fine.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh.
So I
Well,
started.
is it regular flavored Cheetos, or are we talking Flamin' Hot here?
No, just regular, the
Okay.
bright orange.
I thought Flamin' Hot would come when you're writing the Night Demon. I think
Yeah,
you'd have
definitely.
to. Yeah. Okay.
No,
Okay. All right. Just had to check. I'm sure there are people out there like taking notes, like, a Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
yeah,
Okay.
that will do it. So I just started querying. So I started querying smaller publishers. I think I got because I originally marketed Darkling as a novel. So it was originally a novel, and I split it for my publisher, which is Changeling Press, because they publish novellas.
Oh, okay.
I think I got 3 or 4 offers for it. But Changeling was the best, and it was something that I was most comfortable with. But actually, I wrote my query letter sitting on my couch, and I was writing out my email, professional, pretending, that I'm a professional human being. And my daughter stepped on my computer and sent the email half finished.
Oh,
And I was like, well, fuck. Like,
you can swear here. It's all right. We like all the words.
I was like, there goes that chance. I really like this publisher. So I was like, you know what? It's fine. I immediately resent the email, fully worded this time.
Just in case. Let's
Just
let you know.
went to yoga that night, came back. They emailed me back, and she's like, this has to be the best query letter I've ever gotten in my life.
Wow. What was in that magic sauce? Must have been the Cheetos. I mean, that's crazy.
Half finished query letter. That's what got me my publisher.
Wow. I mean, this is like defies all logic because there's so much that goes into that query letter. That's like, as someone who's self-published, I mean, and did a lot of research into the publishing industry, the fact that you got published, the odds that are astronomically low, and let alone like, I mean, it's like 1 to 2%, especially someone who's never written, and you don't have an agent, right?
No.
I mean, you're like fly in the face of like all of the research that's been done, the last couple of years, because KDP has completely disrupted the market. But even before that, the big publishing houses were, 1% chance, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
So
don't like.
Changeling Press, they do novellas.
Yes. And I
Okay.
don't like to talk about it too often on Instagram, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I am a hybrid author. So my novels are self-published. Ghost
Okay.
Dive is self-published.
Sure.
Bloodcrown was self-published. My next novel will be self-published.
Yeah.
But I still publish my novellas traditionally.
Okay.
So I love all forms of publishing. I am, whatever way
Yeah.
you want to go, I support you.
Sure.
Um,
Well, why
but
not? I mean, you have the option to do it all, so why not?
yeah,
I mean, who's going to turn down someone saying, "Yeah, we'll publish your book"? Like, okay.
yeah, I found a lot of people very early on, like in my Instagram journey, were kind of judgmental when I told them the true story of how I got my publisher. So
Hmm.
I don't tell people. It's not
Oh,
something,
sure.
I don't feel the need. Like when I tell people, it's not because I'm bragging. It's just, it is what it is.
Well, it
And
happened. The fact that it happened at all is, I mean, is amazing. And the fact that I mean, it's just like the best story I've heard all day. Like, I mean, seriously, because it's just so, and I won't say random because you had to put the work in, but it's just so like unconventional.
it just fell into
And
place. And I'm
yes, and I
so
love
lucky.
that. I love that. That's like part of our American bedrock belief is this luck and pluck.
Yeah.
Like stories of like Horatio Alger would write, Mark the Batch Boy and things like that, where this little scrappy kid is like, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get my lucky break.
Covered
And
in Cheeto dust.
yeah, and so right, exactly. So now I'm going to go check them out. Like, do they do like other than novellas? Like, what genres do they do? All
So
genres?
they're romance.
Okay.
They're a romance publisher. They do what's called speculative fiction. So
Oh,
it kind
okay.
of encompasses sci-fi, paranormal,
But
fantasy.
under the romance umbrella.
Yes.
Okay, well, that puts me out. So that's okay. I don't, it's one
No
like one.
alien romance.
No, I've got the cozy, but the cozy defies logic in that there's no murder. There are mysteries, but no murder, no bloodshed. It's like Hallmark friendly. My splatter western is what it is. I mean, splatter western. It's violent, it's grim, it's excessively brutal. Then I have a pulp action horror series, which is like harkens back to the 30s, the Phantom, and it's voodoo and zombies and things like that. I got some sci-fi stuff, comedies in the works, but nothing romance. It's like I take my romance cue from H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, whenever you read his romance, anything about sexuality and romance always ends up in like abominations, whether it's cannibal families or like deformed children with multiple heads. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that if I have romance, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, right now, because in my first cozy, I have a main character, Abby, and her best friend, Ray. They've been friends since childhood, and there's a lot of interplay and joking around between them, which I used as a base. The relationship I have with like all my friends and my cousins, this very familial joking, a lot of fun, and like you can say things because the base of the relationship is not going to be shaken. You're just having fun. But there was absolutely no like intentional flirtation or romantic feelings at all. And I had a pretty good book group come together, and they were all asking, so when's Ray gonna get together with Abby? When's Abby gonna get? I go, what do you mean? They're not going to? Like, no, because they're obviously flirting. I'm like, really? And they're like pointing to passages, like they're reading into this, this flirtiness. I'm like, and that dawned on me, like, that was my reader response, like, oh, you're seeing something that I didn't intend at all, and I thought that would be fascinating. So now that I know it, I'm gonna be a real bastard. And like in the second book, I'm kind of writing that, like Abby's like questioning, like something happens that triggers this, like, do I have feelings for Ray? Do I not? Just because if they hadn't said anything about it, I would have gone my merry way without nope, bloop, 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 bloop. But now that I know, you're getting it, readers. But I'm not going to tell you, but I'm still telling you, it's not going to work out. They're not getting together. They're going to end up in a forest with a bunch of werewolves, and they are getting it on, but not with each other. Right? That's fantastic. This is just all kinds of good today. I mean, seriously, that you kind of just like stumbled into this, and you're just so like on your couch, relaxing, like, yeah, I'm just gonna, why the hell not? I mean, when you got the letter back from them, what was your response? Like, did you choke on your handful of Cheetos or what? Like, fuck, they're gonna publish me. I mean, how was that response?
Like, she emailed me back, and what was it? I came downstairs. It was like 5 a.m. My husband was getting ready for work. And I'm like, I think they want to publish me. Like,
oh God, now I gotta send something to. Oh Jesus, my public, my adoring public. God, I can't. They're just wanting to take pictures. It's just too much pressure. I gotta go sit back on the couch.
Who would want me?
Obviously. Have you not seen my flirty memes on Instagram? My reels are genius.
This is the other thing, because I had no social media presence. I had nothing. I had to create it all. I just started all from the ground up, because they're like, yeah, you gotta get on Instagram. And I was like,
now I know why you don't share the story so often, because I can see people going, very upset about this. I could see that. Like, I've tried for 6 years to get a publisher to notice me. Damn it.
And I don't know. Like, it's not.
That's funny.
It's not something that I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm
right.
It's not like that,
Sure.
It's just
right. Well, that's what I love about it so much. It's just like, oh, I guess it happened. Yes. I get it.
And I'm grateful for it. And
sure,
I will still build up everyone else, no matter where they are in their publishing journey. And
right. Well, I like that you're doing both. I mean, I like that the fact that you're not letting, just because you have a publisher for your novellas, but you still are writing novels and you still put that out yourself. It's like you're writing in these different formats, because they really are different animals. Not to have a werewolf pun here, but you really do have the novellas completely different, or pulp length, I like to say. They're like 45,000 words or so. My pulps are around that, but my cozy is like 110. It's pretty thick for a cozy, because some cozies are tiny like that too. So, but you treat them very differently.
Yes. And it's been a process to kind of convince people to read my novellas because I think they have like a certain mindset of what a novella is.
Mhm.
And again, with how I write very quick. So it makes sense for a novella. So even though, my novellas are 30,000 words, you're still getting a full character arc. You're still getting a full
Okay.
plot. You're still getting the twists and turns you expect from a novel.
Right.
It's just shorter.
Did you say 30,000?
30,000. Yeah, that's
Okay, so
usually
that's
what
about
my
100.
novel.
That's about 100 pages.
Yeah.
So how long does it take you to write those 30,000 words?
It really depends if I'm crazy or not.
Define crazy.
If I'm motivated and I can focus on it, I can usually get it done in about 3 weeks.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Do you write like every day kind of thing,
I
or?
try to. I
Oh,
try to.
okay.
Um,
Hmm.
it's sometimes it doesn't work, and that's fine. I
Right.
took a break for most of January actually. Just didn't write anything.
Sure.
Um,
You
I was
can't write all the
editing.
time. You're not a machine, right? I'm sorry to talk over you. Yeah.
No, 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 you're completely fine. Yeah, I just
I
took some time for me in January, edited Nosedive, and yeah, focused on that. And now I'm back to it. So, but
in a day, do you write how many words do you think do you have a
mm,
goal like every day? Like I'm going to write 2,000 words a day or 1,000 words a day, or
I try
is it
and shoot
just
for
it's just
2,000.
whatever comes out?
Yeah, I try and shoot for 2,000.
Sure.
It really varies.
Mhm.
My daughter's 3. So usually I can write more when she's at school.
Right. That can get in the way. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yes. Also being pregnant. The being pregnant does not help things. I want to sleep all day.
Well, I look like I'm pregnant, but I don't, I get it. I want to sleep, all day too. Do you, let's talk a little bit about the process of writing, actually writing. Like, do you write on your laptop, pen and paper, or, do you use software helps like Scrivener or Babisco, or, tell me about the act of writing, how you write.
So I still have never used Scrivener. It kind of intimidates me.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that people know that intimidate me, and I'm just like,
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a good software program, steep learning curve, but it's
mhm,
nothing you can't do by creating your own folders and Word documents. It's
yeah,
just another way of like visualizing, plotting. And since you're not really a plotter and you don't develop a world that much, I think it's not necessary for what, for the kind of writing or writer you are. I
yeah.
think it would just be a lot of unnecessary. Babisco does the same thing. It's not as in depth, and you can get a free version. But
Okay,
again, why tamper with what you're already doing? I
yeah.
mean, because you obviously just kind of write down notes. Do you have like notes on your characters and their traits? Like after you write them, do you like, or do you just kind of know them? Or
I
I'm
kind of
curious.
just know them.
Mhm.
Sometimes if it's like a weird side character, I won't remember what color his eyes are, and I'll be like, oh, his blankety blank gaze, and I'll have to like go back and figure out what color his eyes are.
Yeah.
Um, but I write on Google Docs um, on my computer because
Hmm.
then if I'm in the middle of the scene and I have to step away from my computer, I can finish it on my phone. Um,
Mm.
which my editor does not like because I don't have
Yeah.
an indent on my phone. So I just
You're
do a
one
bunch
of
of
those
spaces.
people. Okay. Because they have to take that Google Docs and translate it into something that can, like a PDF or a Word file,
I send
right?
it to her like that, but it doesn't translate all my little
It
spaces
doesn't.
into
It
indents.
doesn't. It is a nightmare for formatters. I,
Yeah.
I formatted a book and edited a book for a friend. She did a dark fantasy, and I told her, she writes in Google Docs, and I say, stop it right now. You gotta write into Word, because just because the interface looks the same, it's not. And so she sent me her draft of her book, and it was just a clusterfuck. It was just like, oh shit, this
I
is not
am
good.
really good. So like I'll write in Google Docs and then I pull it into Word and then
Okay.
I
Well, at
fix it up
least,
before I send it
okay. All right.
in.
Well, at
Yeah.
least you do that. That's good. Yeah, because you have to do that. But I've convinced her, thankfully, to now she writes in Word. So we're all good, because she's sending me these mammoth, 500-page books. I'm like, I'm not gonna like format
No,
it for you. You
no.
gotta have it in order. Um, well, going back to your characters, um, which one of your characters are your favorite and why?
Honestly, Joelle was so much fun. Joelle was a lot of fun to write. She was a hot mess. Like lost her job. She was just struggling with her mental health. Like she just, and then like this dream demon who like has been giving her nightmares for the last 6 months shows up at her door, and she's just like, "What the fuck? Like, why are you here?"
Yeah,
um,
this is not. I didn't order pizza. What are you doing? Right, exactly. That's good.
and she didn't lose that bite throughout the entire book and or throughout the entire series. She didn't lose that bite, and that was
Okay.
just it was a lot of fun to write. Some people didn't like her attitude, but again, I can't control them. That
No.
that was that was how she wanted to respond to the situation, and I'd rather her respond to situations with too much bark than like just lay down and take it. So
Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean, that's great that you stuck to your guns and stuck to writing the character as she came to you, and like you're being truthful to yourself. And at the end of the day, you're following that adage. You got to write for yourself, and you can't help it if people like it or they don't. You
no,
know. No, I get that.
stylistically, I'll write the story how I think it will be read better, but I'm not going to make my characters that are supposed to be realistic
Right.
more likable
Yeah.
because
This, even though you say it's not a fantasy, it's not a fantasy genre. There is a fantasy element just because you're working with these supernatural types of creatures.
Mhm.
You know. No, I get that. And then that kind of takes us into the idea of like audience and reader expectation and versus writer happiness, in a way, where you kind of know what they want, and you're going to write the scene that makes it read better, but it's not to to try to appease your audience, is it?
No, I don't think so. Um, Honestly, I write because I love to create. Um, I love to create something out of nothing. It's why I like to paint. I like to start with a blank canvas
Mhm.
and create something. And, I like to start with a blank piece of paper and build the story out of nothing.
Yeah,
And so, if I have to tweak a scene so that it's better received by an audience, I have no issues with that because at the end of the day, I'm still creating it.
sure.
Um, there's certain things that I will hold steadfast to, like characters' personalities. And, there's other things that I'm like, you know what? It would probably be more appealing if this happened.
Okay, so you have that level of cognizance about your story that is on an editorial voice. It's not pure creative id driving everything. As much as your characters tell you who they are, you still have some sense of like, yeah, this is a great story, but you know what's going to make it better if I do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. I
Like,
mean, what more could you ask for from anyone, really?
so my
You know?
next book, like this is a good example of it. My next book is not so much paranormal. It's a dystopian romance. So it's kind of like end of the world. They're trying to repopulate.
Well,
And
good reason for the smut then. It's
exactly,
we have to have sex to make more people.
exactly. It's kind of like a smutty Handmaid's Tale.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I'm going for here.
all right.
Um, so the guy, the main character, his name is Ray. I needed him to have a job that he was going to lose because he needed a reason to kind of get into this, like the breeding
Okay, so he's
situation.
the stud. He's in this. Yes.
Yes. So he
Okay.
needed he needed a job in this dystopian world that he was going to lose. And my friends were like, "Ooh, he should be a cannibal chef." And I'm like, "No, because that's not going to make him likable. And I need him to
Yeah.
be likable because he's going to do bad things. So he needs
Right.
to start off being likable."
Sure. He's a fireman who saves kittens from trees. He has.
He works at the grain mill. That's what we ended up with.
Okay.
He
Well,
works at
then
the
that's
grain
how you
mill.
get the body. I mean, the physique. He has to have some kind of physical job,
Exactly.
so that
Yeah.
all the women who are like need to be bred with are like, that's the one I want. I want
Yes.
that guy with the obliques.
because he's gonna do bad things, but I need, I need
Yeah,
him to be somewhat like sympathetic, like a sympathetic
sure.
character. So
Right.
he's
Can you give
not.
me an example of what you mean by bad things? Like he's going
Well,
to do bad things. Like what do you mean?
there's this gang, and the gang is like the black market because essentially what happens is like the world falls to shit, everything goes like terribly, and so what happens is essentially babies become a commodity,
Oh, nice. Okay,
right?
cool.
Because there's not people really having babies anymore, so babies are kind of like
Oh,
an elite
did
commodity.
something happen to them that has made people sterile?
Yeah, it's kind of like a whole bunch of things that happen at once,
Okay.
and
All right.
it just, yeah, everything kind of slowly happens, and then all of a sudden like it's all fucked. um so the young fertile women have it really great because as soon as they get over like the mindset of like I'm selling babies to get like a better living situation, they have that. But the young single men obviously can't like have babies. So they create this whole black market where they kidnap the young fertile women and they hold them hostage until they get pregnant. And then this young single men can take the babies and sell them.
Wow. Okay.
So yes.
Interesting.
So Ray,
That's pretty dark,
yeah,
Tori.
I
That's pretty
know.
dark.
I know. Sometimes I concern myself about my mind and then I'm like, it's fine.
But that's the great thing about no matter how horrible it is, it's not real.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're allowing your id and your creativity to take you to places like, look, I know this is the worst thing I can imagine, but I know it's also not real. I'm just telling a story here, kids. You gotta like ease up on this.
And I also think it's like, I think it's missing from romance right now because you have dark romance in terms of like motorcycle clubs and gangs and bully romances and all that stuff. But you're kind of missing the part of romance that's kind of like that darker dystopian thriller, like romance with a bit of grit to them.
Okay. Yeah, see, I was totally like into the dystopian like realities, but I had totally forgotten there was a romance element. It was just like, we got to breed, but I was so focused on here's what's going on. Here's a guy who's doing bad things and selling these babies. And I'm like, I'm in this world. See, to me, that you've created a world. You've created this dystopian
Yes.
world for me that I was like, yeah, I'm envisioning this. And I completely forgot the romance aspect. So
Yeah.
how do you bring romance into this like really horrible, dark, bleak place?
So the chick, her name is Mila. Mila is coming to town to buy a sleeping bag and she gets kidnapped into this black market gang.
Okay.
And Ray just happens to be her high school sweetheart,
Okay.
but
There
they
we go.
can't be together because everything has to be like, like Ray's got to produce a baby because he has two younger sisters at home who he has to feed. He has to feed those kids.
I see. And so he can impregnate her, right? Is he going to impregnate his girlfriend or his former friend
Oh,
to get her baby? That's the whole point. Like,
she's
but
not
that's
going to
not
get pregnant though. So then the
what?
next, the next month, she's going to go to some other guy, and that's when all shit's going to break loose
Oh, if she doesn't produce, they just move her on down the line.
to the next dude.
I see. Okay. Maybe I'll have better luck with her. Put her on the conveyor belt.
But Ray is not okay with this.
No, because he wants to be with her. I see.
Yes,
There's the romance. Okay.
yes,
I don't care if she's barren. I still want to plow that field,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay. With my virile plow. Look at me as I turn sideways. Arr!
He has been working at the grain mill for many years.
Oh, yeah, I'm. Let's see. That's I get it. I get it. And so she should be able to have a really good bread recipe so that they could
Yeah,
yeah, that's
fine.
awesome.
I have no idea how it's going to end, but I mean, we've got a great start going.
That's something. Right. Well, I mean, I could easily go into like parody venture here because I do like with wordplay, but I don't want to ruin things because that would just like take it up in a wrong direction. We're going like comical,
I
you
will tell you
know.
what it's called though, because the title makes me laugh.
Is it
Um,
something about yeast rising?
it's not. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
It's called Screwed.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic. Um, yeah, if you could bring in some red reference in something. And when they're having sex, talking about the malleability of her doughy body and
Yeah, yeah. We got to bring some kind of bread
his
reference in there.
virile his virile baguette, that she
I was going
butters.
with like his wheat chaff.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to sift you like chaff. Right. That's fantastic. Well, I think you've made me a convert here. I don't know if anything I've written you would be interested at all, but I'd love to do a book swap with you.
Let's do it.
I mean, Cozy is going to be too tame. Splatter Western is going to be dark, but it's not going to have any romance. And then the same thing with the pulp horror.
Yeah, I'm good with horror. I'm good with just straight horror. There doesn't need to be romance in
Yeah,
it.
no, there's none. But there's a great villain.
No, perfect.
Yeah.
Love
So
a good villain.
okay. Well, we'll talk after the show because I definitely, yeah. Send me something. I'll send you my Death's Head.
Perfect.
That's my pulp. And yeah, that's this is so exciting. This is so good. Um, this is great. I'm having so much fun. I hope you are too. I could tell maybe by your laughter. I'm hoping that's the case. Um, so tell me, do you have a favorite time of the day that you like to write? Or is it just whenever you're able to? Because you said, I know it's just that earlier, like if you're on docs, you can write it on your phone if
Yeah.
something interrupts you. But do you have like a time of day that you really like to set aside and say, hey, I'm going to write for a couple hours?
Not really.
Okay.
um, honestly, I'm very organized in general, like in my life, like everything is very organized. Writing is the one place where I don't have to be organized.
Oh, okay. I'm doing my like psychologist or psychiatrist thing here. Is your writing a direct response to how organized your life has been? Has it always been organized and structured for you?
No,
No.
no,
Okay. Just right now, your life revolves around these things.
no.
Do you think it's a response to that order? You need some chaos?
I enjoy a little bit of chaos, and the writing is my chaos.
Okay. And now I know why you bring these chaotic beings.
Yes,
The werewolves, the demons, the were dragons. Like
you gotta have a
that's
little
a
bit of
whole
craziness.
other thing. Like I'm curious as to see like like dragon penis, or do I get wings coming out? I mean scales.
He
Do
uses
is,
his
pre
tail.
prehensile tail come around like
He uses his tail. Yeah.
because back in the day we used to call that the shocker. I mean, does it all come to mind? I mean, I've watched enough hentai to know how this ends up. All the tentacles are going to find some orifice to violate.
People are really into the tentacles.
No, but I mean, if you ever do like an octopus porn, you
I know.
know,
My friend and I have an ongoing conversation because I really think I'm going to do a penguin shifter book. But wait, I have to detail
oh,
the
the
plot
way
to
they
you.
waddle, they are gonna nest on me like you wouldn't believe. I'm gonna sit on your face and keep you till you hatch.
I'm going to give you the elevator pitch. So,
All
like,
right,
just imagine this. So
bring it
there's this woman, and she's an Arctic researcher, and she's up in the Arctic researching things. And then there's this big
down.
storm.
Arctic is down.
It's fine. We'll figure that out later.
Okay. Just I know world building. Just letting you know, North Pole, Arctic.
I told you my world building is crap.
It's just a
Okay.
simple. It's a simple word, not up or down. That's all you got to know. Okay. So she's down in the Arctic
She's
researching.
down in the Arctic researching. There's this
Very
big
cool.
storm, and she gets abandoned there, left behind, left for dead. But don't worry, because there's a colony of underground giant penguin shifters. I really think this could be something.
Oh my God! No, yes, I'm in. You said Penguin Sisters?
Penguin shifters. So they're
Oh,
like,
shifters.
like the
Okay, because I
giant
was thinking
penguin
like, not only are we getting the penguin, like penguin love, but it's like lesbian penguin love. Like, oh my God. I was like, do you want a writing partner? Like, seriously, we will write the fuck out of this. Um, because if this is how you're creating stories and you're writing them, I can come up with some stuff. Okay. Wow. The penguin is just, I mean, okay. I have so many questions here. Okay. If you're a penguin shifter,
Mhm.
is your normal state of being the penguin or the person?
My mom asked me this.
You got to know this shit, man.
I really think
I
that it's
mean,
going to be like the normal state of being is going to be like the penguin because they got to survive
okay.
up there.
Yes, that's the thing. Like if you were a human down there, you wouldn't be able to do it. And if you're wearing clothes,
No.
right, penguins are able to survive
But I
in
feel
that.
like, like when they're down in like their secret underground lair city thing, then they can be human.
Or yeah, and do they, I mean, there's so many questions here. I have years of playing Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm thinking automatically this is like I'm creating this into a, how do I make this into a D&D session? Like do the penguins have like a fleet of ships? Is how they catch fish and nets, or do they go out? I mean, are they pals with the whales? Are there whale shifters, shark
They
shifters?
have
I
like
mean,
this whole world of underground tunnels.
there are all these tunnels. Are they sliding around having a good time? I
Yes,
mean, penguin shifters, that is amazing.
yes. And they're going to save this woman.
And they're gonna like have their way with her,
Yes.
and she's gonna be like, yeah,
And she's gonna be
I'm
like, I want to write a book about you because like this is way more exciting than the penguins up on the surface.
wow. Unless she's like, then she's gonna get caught molesting a penguin at the zoo, and they're gonna lock her up.
No,
Like,
those are too
oh, not
small.
all penguins. Oh, I was looking for the pee, but this one's a real penguin. It's not. Okay. Yeah, there's a concept right there. Wow. I this is fantastic. No, seriously, this is and never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined anything like that, like create a story about, I love how free, just free, like fuck yeah, penguin people, of course. They're gonna gather around together and they are just gonna like bang the shit out of her
Yeah, it's
as
gonna be great.
penguins.
It's gonna be great.
And she's gonna love their slippery, smooth penguin bodies, their flippers flapping all over her.
We have to incorporate beak usage somewhere in there.
Well,
Um,
obviously.
yeah, my friend is very insistent that we have to incorporate beak
Well,
usage.
I
So
think they're gonna like be pecking at her when they get very excited. Maybe some of the penguins, be jealous, and she's gonna have to deal with that. Maybe it turns her on. Maybe she's in a pain. Like, this hurts, but I'm kind of digging it. And wow, you have to have at least one penguin with a monocle and like a
oh
cigarette
yeah,
to as an
gotta
homage
be
to
the bad guy.
Batman, to as to a homage to the Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. When do they shift? Like when the aurora borealis comes out? I mean, no, that's northern lights. They'll never see it. What makes them turn into penguins in the back of the people?
Just special. They're just special. They just choose. They're just like, yeah,
They
I'm
just
gonna shift
choose.
now.
I'm gonna be a person now. And do as people do they still have like penguin like features? Like
No,
do they have no? They're
no,
like
there's
naked
they have to be
people.
really hot.
They have
It goes
naked
back to like the wheat mill, the grain mill.
they have
They gotta be hot.
naked naked people. They got to have some clothing. Um,
I'm sure that they'll have some kind of form of
yeah,
creating
I mean,
clothing
maybe
underneath
they
their
have furs from all like all the seals and that they bludgeoned.
the seal
Maybe that's
shifter.
well, the seal shifters are going to be really pissed about that. If you bring in a walrus shifter, we just call it Tusk and be done with it. Tusk you, like that would be awesome. His Tusk entered her, you know, with 3 feet of ivory. Um, I think that's oh, maybe I've been writing the wrong thing all this
I
time.
told you it's so fun.
Yes, of course. It's so like utterly joyously ridiculous, like, and I mean that in the best possible way. Like, I mean joyous, like the utter freedom. Like now I get it. While you're pants, you're like, yeah, I don't need any stupid outline. I'm just gonna write penguin smut today. Wow.
Well, with a plot, there has to be a
There has
plot.
to be a plot. Of course, there's a plot. You told me the plot, but now I'm like, I'm rethinking everything. Maybe I've just how do I bring in these walrus shifters into my cozy mystery series? I don't know if that's possible. You know, I think
Zoo.
the big they come out of the lake because it's near the great Lake Erie, and these crazy walruses show up and they start waddling around.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Turns out they're human. Surprise.
They just lay around on the beach all naked and bloated. That people think they're just like people who've been drinking too much for too many years.
That's the story right there.
And
They
they come
go
up
in
during
the
the fish
summer
festival. They're like during the fish festival, like, come
and
on, feed me some fish. Oh.
they think that it's a dead body, but it's not a dead
It's
body.
not.
It's a
It's just
walrus shifter.
wow. And he's there. They all of them they're coming because they know in the summertime
Yes.
this is the festival of the fish, and they are here to celebrate because they want all the damn fish.
Yes.
And it beats having to fight it in the sea. Like, look, these people are frying up for us. Why we have to catch it? No, it's deep fried baskets of fish. Let's just go to the fish festival. Oh,
There's your summer plot right there.
yeah. Screw what I had originally in mind. stupid cozy mystery. It's walrus people. Walrus shifters. Yeah, I am changing the whole arc of my cozy mystery now. Wow. This is crazy great. Um, I hope people just like fall in love with this idea in these series. I mean, seriously.
So.
Yeah. And I get it. See, this reminds me in an awful lot of ways. In the I don't know if you're a reader of pulps, if you like those kinds of things, but there are a lot of pulp fiction from the 30s that was published in like science fiction or fantasy journals or magazines, and they were fantastic adventures of of course at the 100 years ago we didn't know nearly as many things as we do now, so exotic places, and in the real world, to discover places in Africa and Asia and South America that most Americans were unaware of. So there could be these fantastic places and peoples and creatures and all kinds of things, and there was this kind of a free for all, this whimsy, like you just took it all in, and adventure and excitement and danger, and that's what I love about them, that the kind of the sense of unfettered kind of fun. And I'm getting a lot of that vibe from your steamy paranormal romance. It reminds me a lot of that, so that's tremendous.
I like doing it. It's also why all the trolls on my page don't really bother me.
Well,
they could try, but I'm pretty hard to offend.
What are they trolling you about?
Oh, I don't know. I think one of my videos made it off Bookstagram. So one of my videos got like tons of hits and it made it off Bookstagram. And it was one where it was talking about my main character taking both his dick and his tail.
Oh, I remember reading that.
Yeah.
And so when I saw tail, I'm like, okay, this is pretty crazy.
Like, and so a lot of people took it seriously.
Oh.
So I had a lot of people, just a lot of people telling me I needed to find Jesus.
Yeah.
Surprising about people.
Right. Yeah, like the Bible's not fucked up with stories, and you just turn around and say, look, I'm an apostate. So that was my third book was about that. Just say, look, why did your God insist on incest as populate the earth? Not once, but twice. Your God who's okay with rape, your God who's okay with murder. Don't give me this. Don't give me this garbage, Sister Christian. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I got a lot of people telling me I need to find Jesus. I got a lot of people telling me I was a degenerate. It's fine. I put that one in my bio. I like that one.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that on your page. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah,
you're owning it. Like, yes.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like when you get a bad review, you have to own it.
Yeah.
I got a 1-star review on one of my books, but there was like, I think it might have been on Gage Black, but there was like nothing written. Like, well, at least tell me if you thought it was a steaming pile of shit, that's fine. But just tell me the word. Use your words, you idiot. And then I got a 3-star review on Toxic. The guy loved it all, but the 3-star review came from too many F-bombs. And I wrote back, I go, what's the fucking problem with that? I never did hear back, but I thought, you have to own them. I'm totally cool with that. Yes, I like to swear. There are a lot of good words in there,
Yeah, I don't mind bad reviews. I don't get.
That means people are reading.
But it honestly, everyone's not going to like everything.
Of course.
And it would be really boring if everyone all liked the same things. So
Yeah.
People giving me a bad review, usually it's not because of my writing style.
Okay.
Um,
It's the content. It's your smut.
it's the content, you know, and
Wow. Well,
if
that's
people
good.
don't
Hey,
like the content, that's
yeah,
okay.
that's good.
My writing's good.
That's good. Yeah. I think the first compliment I got on Gage Black was like, Justice's prose is knife sharp. Now the person reviewing it didn't really care for how much of a monster that the character had become. Like he's just completely without redemption. He said, like, oh yeah, that's the whole point. Revenge is a tremendous story, Um, but I was just happy to be praised for my prose. Like I'll take that any day, you know. No, I love that. I love that. Okay, let's shift gears just a touch. I don't want to keep you all night, but let's talk a little bit about. Tell me how you felt the very first time you saw one of your books in print. You held it in your hand. What can you remember that feeling?
That would be Blood Crown because my novellas are ebook only, and it was crazy. It was ridiculous. Like it just, I really don't think it's kind of, I don't. It doesn't make sense even now. Like I don't look at it. It's on my bookshelf, and I'm not like, oh yeah, I wrote that book. It doesn't feel real. I co-wrote Blood Crown, so Nosedive will actually be my first full-length self-published novel, and holding that one in my hand, I think is going to be different because it's all me. It's all me.
Sure, exactly. Right.
But even then,
Um,
like, it just doesn't compute in my head.
mhm. Yeah, that's so your novellas, are they're e-published
They're
as well?
ebook only.
Okay.
The publisher typically puts them into paper once the series is complete.
Mm.
Mm, So
Okay, so kind of creates like an anthology kind of
yeah,
thing for you. Oh, I see. Okay.
it just
Interesting.
it makes more sense price wise, like because Amazon's going to charge you,
Yeah. Well, 120-page book will run only a couple bucks to print.
yeah.
I charge like 10.99 for my pulps. And I get them for about 2.50, $3 landed,
Mhm.
and so that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
If I sell them like at a book show or something, um, so that's not so bad, but interesting. I like that. I like that. So if you can tell me, like, what is your writer fantasy? At the end of the day, beyond goals and ambitions, like when you think, yeah, my writer fantasy is what?
I want to make the New York Times. And I want people to know my name. I want people to know
Hmm.
my name.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like. I don't care how it happens.
She's the one who writes that walrus smut.
The
Penguins and
penguin
walrus.
shifter's taking me to the top.
Right, exactly. I can't wait for that to become like a series on Netflix. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, New
Okay.
York Times will be like, what's this penguin book doing on here?
My God.
That's my
How wow, times have fallen. It's the time of the end times. That's awesome. Well, great. Hey, it's a good fantasy. Um, what advice would you give for anyone who wants to write?
you just gotta write. You just have to write. You can't. Um, I have friends who I've met on Instagram who want to write, who are readers, and they think too much about what they're writing, and then that kind of stops them. And because they're afraid that the words they're putting down aren't going to be good,
Okay.
and you can't think like that.
Sure.
If you're gonna write, you just got to put the words out
Yeah,
and think about if they're good or bad later.
right, because writing comes in drafts or in stages. You have that creative burst where you write and you're just kind of getting it out. It's
Yeah.
not going to be perfect. And I know so many people who get caught in this idea of perfectionism, and it prevents them from doing anything. I have to
Mhm.
make sure this book is perfect before I move on to the next one. No, you don't.
No.
It's never going to be perfect. You want to tell your story, and that's great for that's that's your draft. And then you go back and then you kind of look at what you've written and then say, okay, how can I make this better? But there comes the point where it's diminishing returns. You just got to get to the place where you're happy with it and
Yeah.
say, okay, it tells a story, it accomplishes what I want to tell.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but and you let it go out into the world. And then because by that time you're already thinking of you're already working like books ahead. You've got books you're working on,
Mhm.
you know.
You
I
just
I oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I was just gonna say you just gotta get the words out.
Yeah.
You just can't get bogged down. And you get a good editor. You get a
Okay.
really good editor.
All right. I that's all good advice. I always know like about 3/4 of the way through a draft, like when I'm writing my rough drafts, I'm ready for this thing to be done.
Yeah.
I'm like, and because in my mind, by the time I'm approaching the last act, the end, I've rehearsed it in my mind so many times. It's like I know, why do I have to write it? And it just becomes like a marathon, like just
Yeah.
telling the story, and because the creative part of me is filled, it's already been fulfilled. It's like it's bored,
Yeah.
and it's like going, but hey, the next book, let's start thinking about that one. I'm like, shut up, I gotta finish this one. And I think it's why having things on the back burner, things like plotting ahead, like I know the next book is going to be this, and the book after that is this one. I think that helps the creative part kind of stay at bay. Like, okay, we got to finish this. We can work in the back of our mind. We can start, thinking about this one more.
Mhm.
Um, so I get that. Just a few more. Just a few more questions, just to share. So tell us again about your work in progress, your current book that you are working on. And
Uh,
by us, I don't mean like the royal we. Like, tell us, Ms. Heat, the royal crown wants to know what you're working
Unfortunately, it's smutty. So,
on. What?
um,
Here's my surprise face. What?
surprise.
You're
Um,
more smut. That's yes,
so I have two on
wonderful.
the go. So I'm gonna finish Umbra, which is the last Darkling book, and then Darkling will be a completed series.
So
Uh,
that will then come out in paperback, right? Where I
Hopefully,
could,
if there's enough interest in it,
like,
it
print
will.
on demand. Okay.
Yeah, I it would be pretty cool to hold that one because that one was like the one that started it all. So
Yes. Are you a little sad that it's ending?
nope,
Okay.
nope.
You've told
I'm
the story. You've
I'm ready.
Okay. That's
I'm
good.
ready for this one.
No, I get it. I get it. I was asked that same question. Like, when you're done telling these 4 stories, are you going to be sad? And part of me was like, I might be a little bit, but I can always do like small little like story tales of Juniper, or tell things from other characters' points of view. But I'm going to tell you this: I've already decided, as I was before I wrote the second book. After the 4, I'm doing a horror story that takes place in the same town with the
Oh,
same
cool.
with the same characters,
Yeah.
and I'm killing everybody, like the whole fucking town. And so I am introducing in the next 3 books of the series like about 15 to 20 new characters in each book, so that I have enough people to kill off in the last one. And I've told this people, and my wife's like, "You can't do that. The people are going to be so angry." I go, "Yes, I know."
Why?
Well, why would you do that? I go, well, for me as a writer, because I know the plot and I've already written the end. Oh my God, the end. It was like a punch to the gut. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, this one's gonna hurt. Especially if you've like loved these characters for 4 books. And you're like, look, I'm telling you, man, this is a horror story. It's not a cozy mystery. If you read this, you're on your own. I mean, it is grim
I
and
approve.
bleak.
I approve.
But a part of me just wants to do it as an exercise as a writer. I mean, because I know it's not the cozy story. I'm not going to bring
Yeah.
death and dismemberment to the cozy series. It's like, no, but I've never seen that done as two completely different genres taking place in the same world, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but I kind of get, there's a sense where you leave the characters behind, they're done. I mean, I've told their stories, you know.
Yeah. I've been with these characters for a long time, so I'm just their story's done. Their story's been done to me, but I have to
Yeah,
wrap everything up. So
right. Because you've got
um,
penguins to write, You got these
Yeah.
shifters. I mean, I'm
So I was sad to say goodbye to Luke and Joelle. So that's the Demon series. They were
mhm,
3 books, and that's done. That came out at Christmas, so they're done. And I was sad to say goodbye to that one because they just like been with me a lot.
sure.
Um,
They're still fresh in a way, like
yeah,
they're still new. And well, I mean, maybe their story, even though it might be told, maybe it's something. If you don't have that complete sense of closure like you do with the other characters, maybe it's something that can come back like a one-off or a short story or a series. Down the road, the occasional short story might give you something to think about.
and
And
like and Jasper and Ava, which is the Darkling book, they really tend to like stick to the plot. So even though I don't plot, like they don't stray, they don't do crazy things.
yeah,
They're very much like we're gonna follow the path here.
okay,
I'm like,
yeah.
I need more chaos. But
You
people like
guys are
them, so I
done.
write them, and I love them. I do love them. It's
Sure.
just
Yeah.
I want to write crazy stuff.
Well, it certainly sounds like you're heading in the right direction for that. And I'm telling you, I will be reading those books. You're turning me into a fan. I really,
Yes.
seriously, Tori, I mean it. Um, I think the more outrageous, the better. And so seriously, I will be following very closely the journey when these books come out. Do you um what was the name of the book that with the penguin shifters? Was that Screwed?
No,
Oh,
I
sorry.
haven't named the penguin shifters yet. I don't know
Okay.
what it'll be named.
How about
I
something
guess
like
now it's like
how about
it's a
something like Ice Hard or something like that? You know, the
I
pecking
can see it.
order,
I can see it. Yeah.
right? Just throwing it out there. You know, not trying to like hone in on your style because you got it going. You don't need any outside help. But I mean, when it comes in terms of like smut and innuendo and sexual imagery, it's kind of in my wheelhouse. This is good. I hope there's a movie of this. I swear to you. I
I'll get in
want to
touch with
see
my
it.
people at Netflix.
Yeah. Right. So look, people, make this a reality. Get out there, buy Tori's books, make Netflix come to her. Like, look, we want to publish Ice Hard. We gotta publish Ice Hard. We're gonna turn into a mini series. You know, I can just see now everyone's wearing the motion capture suits, waddling
Yes.
like penguins.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
yeah. Well, who's the plays the main heroine, the woman who gets left behind? We got to come up with who's playing that.
I don't know.
Do you know what she looks like? Do you have an idea of her physical appearance yet?
It's gonna be blonde. I'm seeing
Okay.
blondes.
All right. Okay. I'm in. I'm sold. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to promote while we're here before we get ready to take? I think
No,
no. Okay. And can you remind us again where we can find your books, the name of your publisher, and all those other places we can find you,
of
contact you?
course. I'm everywhere as Torri Heat. I was very lucky. So everywhere is at Torri Heat. And my website is www.torriheat.com. All very easy. And Changeling Press publishes my novellas. So
Thank you. You know, at first I wasn't sure if you were going to show up wearing your like Mardi Gras mask, and I was,
considered
you know,
it. But
because I thought
no,
all of your like pictures or most of them have been like you're disguising yourself,
I
keep that
know.
kind of mystique. I'm like, it's either she's going to wear the Mardi Gras mask or maybe just like a bag. I couldn't tell, but you're going
Oh.
to show up. So I'm really glad that you just kind of hanging out tonight. Um,
I might make you black out my face later. We'll see.
exactly. I'll put like
You
a
can
distortion
know.
on. I'll put a distortion on your voice.
Yeah.
I am writing a pornguins. Oh, why did I not think of that earlier? Pornguin. Yes. Ah. Yes. So many good things. Tori, I have had a great time talking with you this evening.
Thank you. So fun.
Good. This has been really enjoyable. And the best of luck on your delivery, and be
you.
safe. And I think this comes out in about a month or 5 or 6 weeks, something like that. I'll send the links to you. You can share them on all your social media, and But I'm going to do my commercial and then we'll get out of here.
Sounds good.
You've been watching and listening to Between the Lines. You can listen to us on unsaneradio.com. Download full episodes to your device, or you can listen to full episodes right there. You're watching us on our YouTube page, Between the Lines Podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you know someone who would like us and like the show, tell them about us. If you're a writer and would like to come on the show and join me for a chat, talk about penguins or whatever, email me at betweenthelines54@yahoo.com. That's betweenthelines54@yahoo.com. And here's my cheesy outro. See you next time, Between the Lines. Pornguins!
Pornguins. That's gonna be it.